He kicked her out while she was in labor. Yes, you heard that right. While Olivia Hayes clutched her stomach, her body convulsing with contractions, the man she trusted most, Daniel Morgan, her husband, slammed the door behind her and left her standing in the cold night air. She begged for mercy, tears streaking down her face, her hands gripping her swollen belly as another wave of pain tore through her. And yet, Daniel's words were colder than the pavement she stumbled onto. Scream all you want. Die with your baby for all I care. You're nothing to me now. In that single moment, everything shattered. The vows they once exchanged in front of family and friends meant nothing. The promises of forever, the dreams of raising a family together gone. Instead of a hand to hold, she got betrayal. Instead of comfort, she got humiliation. He had chosen someone else a mistress over the woman who was about to bring his child into the world. But what Daniel never imagined was that the same woman he left to suffer alone would one day rise, carrying with her not just strength, but a secret that would crush him. A $50 million inheritance. A fortune that would turn the tables in ways he could never have predicted, rewriting the story of who truly held power. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. How did Olivia Hayes survive that night, abandoned, bleeding, and in the throes of labor with no one by her side? How does a woman endure the unthinkable when the very person sworn to protect her throws her into the street like she is nothing? These are questions that still echo in every corner of her story. And then comes the second question, one that gnaws at the heart of every man watching this. Why would Daniel Morgan throw away his marriage so cruelly? What drove him to abandon not only his wife but his own unborn child, just to chase the fleeting embrace of another woman? Was it lust, pride, greed, or something far darker? But perhaps the most haunting question of all is the one Daniel never dared to consider. What twist would make his new wife's world collide with Olivia's in the most unexpected way? Because while Daniel thought he had escaped the life he left behind, while he believed that by locking Olivia out, he was also locking away every trace of her existence, the truth was far more devastating. He was blind to the storm already gathering, a storm that would turn his betrayal into a weapon against him. What Daniel didn't know was everything. Olivia Hayes had always been known as the kind of woman who put others first. Born into a family of quiet wealth, she carried her late father's values with grace. He had built a life of dignity and discipline, teaching Olivia that money was not meant to be paraded around but rather used responsibly, humbly, and with compassion. Even after his passing, those lessons lived on in her. To anyone who knew her, Olivia wasn't the kind of woman you would ever imagine in the center of scandal. She was loyal, soft-spoken, and believed deeply in the promise of family. Daniel Morgan was the opposite in nearly every way. Ambitious, restless, and insecure, he carved his identity around appearances. A businessman by trade, but in truth a man consumed by status, Daniel thrived not on quiet dignity, but on recognition. He measured his worth in the cars he drove, the parties he attended, and the envy he could provoke in others. While Olivia sought stability, Daniel sought validation. He was a man who could be manipulated by appearances, someone who would rather be admired than genuinely loved. When Olivia and Daniel married, the union seemed like something out of a storybook. Photographs from those early years showed sunlit holidays, elegant parties, and wide, effortless smiles. To friends, they looked like the picture of happiness. Olivia's gentle spirit appeared to soften Daniel's rough edges, and Daniel's ambition gave Olivia a sense of excitement. Together, they were the couple everyone admired, beauty and success wrapped in a perfect package. But as the years went by, the cracks began to show. Daniel often complained of feeling trapped by the responsibilities of marriage. What had once felt like excitement turned into a weight on his shoulders. While Olivia dreamed of starting a family, Daniel saw it as another chain binding him to a life he wasn't sure he wanted. And in his search for freedom, he began indulging in dangerous distractions. Affairs that started as whispered rumors soon became difficult to hide. Late nights at the office weren't spent on business deals but in the arms of women who fed his ego, women who made him feel powerful in ways Olivia's quiet devotion could not. Olivia, isolated in her own home, clung desperately to what remained of their marriage. She believed in the vows they had exchanged, believed that love could be repaired if only she held on tightly enough. When she discovered she was pregnant, it became her lifeline. She saw the child as the glue that might bring Daniel back, the family that would remind him of what truly mattered. But instead of bringing them together, her pregnancy only widened the gulf. Daniel became distant, restless, and cruel. And yet, beneath Olivia's fragile exterior lay something Daniel never recognized, a hidden strength, shaped by her late father's lessons and sealed in the shadows of her family's past. Her father had left her something, though its full meaning had never been spoken of openly. It was a detail tucked away, almost forgotten, a piece of her story that remained vague, waiting in silence. But one day, that quiet inheritance would prove to be more powerful than anything Daniel could imagine. The night everything broke was supposed to be a night of new beginnings. Olivia Hayes had gone into labor, her contractions sharp and relentless, her body signaling the imminent arrival of the child she had prayed would heal the fracture in her marriage. She pleaded with Daniel Morgan, her voice breaking with both fear and hope, begging him to drive her to the hospital. She reminded him that this was his child too, that she needed him now more than ever. But Daniel's heart was already elsewhere. His face, once familiar and loving, twisted with cold impatience. He spat venom instead of compassion. With a cruel shove, he forced her out of the door. His words rang louder than the echo of the slamming wood. "Scream all you want. Die with your baby for all I care. You're nothing to me now." Olivia collapsed onto the cold ground, clutching her stomach as another contraction tore through her. The street around her was silent, windows glowing faintly with the shadows of neighbors who watched but did not intervene. Behind curtains and closed blinds, people whispered, their silence heavy with judgment. They saw a woman abandoned in her most vulnerable moment, but fear and gossip kept them from acting. Olivia staggered to her feet, every movement a war against pain, and with trembling hands hailed a cab. The driver, startled by her condition, rushed her to the hospital, his eyes darting to the rearview mirror as Olivia's cries filled the silence of the car. Inside the sterile white walls of the hospital, nurses surrounded her, their faces etched with urgency as they guided her into a delivery room. The beeping of monitors mixed with her gasps and sobs. As the contractions grew stronger, Olivia fought through the agony with tears streaming down her cheeks. She wasn't just battling the pain of childbirth, she was battling the heartbreak of abandonment. Every push carried the weight of betrayal. Every scream was a reminder that the man who should have been holding her hand had cast her aside. Meanwhile, Daniel Morgan was nowhere near the hospital. He was across town, dressed in a tailored suit, clinking glasses of champagne with Amanda Clark, the mistress who had convinced him that Olivia was unstable, that she was a burden holding him back from the life of luxury he believed he deserved. At Amanda's side, Daniel laughed, dismissing Olivia as nothing more than a problem of his past. To him, she was weak, disposable, and soon to be forgotten. Amanda fed his ego, telling him he deserved better, that he was destined for greatness, and Daniel, blinded by arrogance, believed her. But what Daniel never realized was that the night he toasted his freedom, Olivia Hayes was enduring the hardest night of her life, a night that would forge her spirit in fire. The woman he abandoned would not remain broken forever. She would rise, and when she did, she would carry with her something Daniel never anticipated. And so, as Olivia pushed through the searing pain, her cries echoing in the hospital room, a storm was quietly brewing. A storm that would one day consume Daniel Morgan. The morning after that fateful night, whispers began to spread. In small towns and tight-knit communities, secrets don't stay hidden for long, and Olivia Hayes' humiliation became the subject of endless gossip. But the most painful betrayal wasn't from strangers, it was from her own blood. Margaret, Olivia's mother, who had always demanded perfection from her daughter, refused to defend her. Instead, she aligned herself with Daniel Morgan, choosing to believe his version of the story that Olivia was unstable, emotional, and incapable of handling the pressures of family life. With a few carefully crafted lies, Daniel painted himself as the victim of a volatile wife, while Olivia was branded as the fragile one. Soon Olivia's name carried a scarlet letter. She was whispered about in grocery aisles, pitied at bus stops, and judged at church pews. People nodded politely to her face but turned cold behind her back. To the world, she was no longer the elegant young wife of Daniel Morgan. She was a struggling single mother, abandoned and unstable, and struggle she did. With no support and no wealth of her own to fall back on, Olivia moved into a small, dimly lit apartment on the edge of town. The floors creaked, the heater barely worked, and nights were filled with the cries of her newborn. To make ends meet, she took whatever job she could cleaning homes, scrubbing offices, sometimes working 2 shifts back to back. Hunger was common, exhaustion her constant companion. There were days when she skipped meals so her child could eat. But even in the darkest nights, Olivia clung to one thing. She refused to let her baby suffer the way she was suffering. While Olivia was drowning in struggle, Daniel Morgan and Amanda Clark flaunted their new life for the world to see. They dined at high-end restaurants, posed for glossy photos on weekend getaways, and shared smiles that looked rehearsed yet convincing. Amanda wore a glittering engagement ring that sparkled brighter under the flash of cameras than it ever did in Daniel's conscience. Together, they presented the image of glamour, the life Daniel had convinced himself he always deserved. But beneath the polished veneer, cracks had already begun to show. Daniel's business ventures, built more on ego than strategy, started to collapse under the weight of debt. Investors pulled out. Deals that were supposed to secure their future fell apart. Behind closed doors, arguments erupted. Money was disappearing faster than it came in, and Amanda's patience with Daniel's failures wore thin. The glamorous photos masked the growing instability, but the foundation of their perfect life was crumbling. And just as Daniel believed Olivia had faded into obscurity, fate intervened. One evening, after another long day of cleaning, Olivia returned to her apartment to find a man waiting at her door. He wasn't a creditor or a neighbor. He was her late father's lawyer. His presence alone carried a weight she couldn't immediately understand. With a quiet but firm voice, he explained that her father had left something for her, something she had never truly grasped the scale of. It wasn't just an inheritance, it was a legacy. And that knock on Olivia's door would change everything. The lawyer's visit changed the trajectory of Olivia Hayes' life in a way she could never have anticipated. Sitting across from him in her cramped apartment, she listened in stunned silence as he unfolded the truth her late father had kept hidden. Her father, a man of quiet means and firm principles, had built a fortune over decades investments, land holdings, and shares in companies she had never even heard of. He had entrusted it all to her, carefully protected in a trust worth nearly $50 million. But there was a condition. The inheritance would remain locked away until Olivia turned 30 years old. And her 30th birthday was only months away. Olivia's hands trembled as she signed the documents acknowledging the trust. It wasn't just the money that overwhelmed her, it was the responsibility. Her father had believed in her, even when others didn't. He had seen strength in her that Daniel Morgan and Margaret had dismissed as weakness. With tears in her eyes, Olivia made a quiet vow. She would tell no one. Not her mother, not her friends, not even the kind neighbor who sometimes helped with her baby. This was a secret she would guard with her life until the moment it became reality. Meanwhile, across town, Daniel Morgan's world was unraveling. The image of success he had so carefully curated was collapsing under the weight of his reckless choices. His company bled money with every passing day. Investors once eager to ride on his charm and promises now fled in fear of mounting debt. Daniel spent sleepless nights dialing numbers, pitching desperate ideas, pleading for one last chance to prove himself. But each call ended the same way, with rejection. The man who had once stood tall at lavish parties now paced alone in dimly lit offices, his confidence slipping through his fingers like sand. Amanda Clark, once charmed by Daniel's swagger, now saw cracks in the fantasy she had so willingly believed. Luxury dinners were replaced with arguments over bills. The expensive ring on her finger felt heavier with every passing day, as though it symbolized a promise Daniel could no longer afford to keep. Desperate to secure her own stability, Amanda began applying for corporate roles. She told herself it was just temporary, just until Daniel bounced back. But underneath, doubt gnawed at her. One morning, Amanda walked into the towering lobby of a company with an offer she had been praying for. It was polished, successful, and stable, everything Daniel's collapsing world was not. She held her head high, eager to prove she could stand on her own 2 feet. What she didn't know, what she couldn't possibly have guessed, was that this very company, the one she now pinned her hopes on, was secretly owned by the very woman she had tried to erase from Daniel's life. And when Amanda Clark walked into that office, she had no idea whose shadow she was stepping into. Amanda Clark adjusted the cuffs of her blazer as she stepped into the sleek conference room, her heels echoing against the polished floors. She was nervous, but hopeful. This was her chance to prove she wasn't just Daniel Morgan's fiancée, clinging to a sinking ship. She could stand on her own, or so she thought. The door opened. The executives entered one by one, shaking hands, exchanging pleasantries. And then, Olivia Hayes walked in, calm, composed, radiant in a tailored suit that carried no trace of the hardship she had endured. Amanda froze, her breath catching in her throat. Her eyes widened, her lips parted, disbelief flooding her face. For the first time, Amanda was not the one in control of the narrative. She was the subordinate. The woman she had mocked, dismissed, and helped drive out of her own home, now stood at the head of the table. When word reached Daniel Morgan, he dismissed it at first as some cruel rumor. Olivia Hayes, his ex-wife, the woman he had left on the coldest night of her life, couldn't possibly hold such power. But as reality closed in, Daniel's bravado shattered. He stormed into Olivia's office days later, shoulders heavy with desperation, eyes pleading for recognition. "Olivia," he began, voice breaking, "I made mistakes. I was wrong. Please forgive me. We can fix this." But Olivia Hayes was no longer the fragile woman begging for his attention. She was steady, dignified, unmoved by his performance. She listened, silently, then stood. Her words were not sharp, not vengeful, they were final. "Daniel, I don't hate you, I don't even resent you. But you no longer have any power in my life. I have a child to protect, a company to run, and a future that doesn't include you." Her calm dismissal cut deeper than any scream could have. As the weeks passed, Daniel Morgan's world collapsed completely. Investors fled. His company went bankrupt. Amanda Clark, unable to stomach the humiliation of playing second to Olivia Hayes in the very empire she now controlled, slipped quietly out of his life. He was left with nothing, no business, no wealth, no love. Only his own reflection, haunted by the memory of the woman he had betrayed. Meanwhile, Olivia Hayes rose steadily, not with bitterness but with strength. She devoted herself to her child, building not just a business but a legacy of resilience. She carried her late father's values into every boardroom, every decision, proving that quiet strength can outlast cruelty, betrayal, and deceit. And in the whispers of business circles, in the gossip of former friends, Daniel Morgan became a cautionary tale. A man who threw everything away for vanity and lost everything to the woman he thought was broken. Sometimes, the woman you thought was broken is the one you can never escape, never. This is not just Olivia Hayes' story. It is a reminder that betrayal can plant the seed of resilience, that strength can emerge from the deepest pain. Olivia was cast aside, humiliated, and branded as unstable. Yet in time, she rose higher than Daniel Morgan or Amanda Clark could ever imagine. But the question lingers, was justice truly served? Olivia chose dignity over revenge, power over pettiness, calm over chaos. Some will say she did the right thing, that living well was the ultimate victory. Others might argue she should have destroyed Daniel completely, ensuring he never had a chance to rise again. What do you think? Should she have crushed him entirely, or was her quiet strength the most devastating answer of all? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear your perspective. And remember, Olivia Hayes' journey is just one chapter in the vast world of hidden truths, shocking betrayals, and unexpected justice. If you thought this story was unbelievable, wait until you hear what happened when a millionaire's maid revealed the bruises on her arms, a revelation that changed everything for her employer and shook an entire household to its core. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and join us for the next story. Because sometimes, the truths you uncover are far stranger and far more powerful than fiction.